In his first letter to the Corinthians, the Apostle Paul makes a startling admission. He writes that if the resurrection of Jesus didn't happen, the Christian religion is worthless, and humanity remains trapped in its sins. That claim drew immediate pushback. Major world religions, including Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism, reject the idea of physically rising from the dead. Even in the 1st century, ancient Jewish sects like the Sadducees dismissed the concept of an afterlife or bodily resurrection. The Gospel of Matthew records the first historical counter-narrative to the empty tomb. Jewish chief priests paid off Roman guards to spread a specific rumor that the disciples snuck in while the guards slept and stole Jesus' body. That stolen body narrative posed a threat to the early Christian church. If the public believed it, the disciples would be exposed as frauds, and the movement would be buried by Roman and Jewish authorities. If the body was merely stolen, or if Jesus remained in the grave like every other religious founder, the mechanics of salvation fail. The payment for sin might have been offered, but the receipt was never printed. The validity of the Christian faith rests on a specific historical claim, of physical victory over death. The defense against the stolen body rumor begins with physical evidence. While the graves of other religious figures remain occupied, the accounts state that Jesus' tomb was uniquely empty. An empty tomb alone doesn't prove a resurrection. The texts document a cascade of eyewitnesses, beginning with Mary Magdalene and the women who returned from the grave to report that they had seen Jesus alive. Focus then shifts to the male disciples. The book of Luke details Jesus walking alongside Cleopas on the road to Emmaus. Shortly after, he appears to the 11 disciples, entering a locked room to stand among them. The claims scale up from there. 1 Corinthians 15 records a mass witness event where over 500 people saw the resurrected Christ at once. Paul notes that the majority of those witnesses were still alive when he wrote the letter, available to be questioned by skeptics. This density of eyewitness accounts made the stolen body rumor difficult to maintain. Hundreds of independent, living witnesses turned an easily dismissible conspiracy theory into a historically resilient movement. This raises a very logical question. If Jesus successfully conquered the grave, why didn't he immediately ascend back to heaven? The texts indicate he remained for 40 days to provide prolonged physical proof to his followers. By eating with them, walking with them, and inviting them to touch his glorified body, he systematically addressed their doubts. He also utilized these 40 days for intensive instruction. He trained his disciples, outlining how they would take the teachings of his kingdom and spread the gospel worldwide. This window allowed for a psychological shift. The disciples went from mourning, fearful victims into emboldened apostles, prepared to face persecution. The physical presence of a resurrected leader turned a localized execution in Jerusalem into a movement that spread across the Roman provinces. Because the resurrection is established as a historical reality by these witnesses, it triggers a chain reaction of spiritual benefits for believers. This diagram outlines the Christian plan of salvation. On the left side, faith activates redemption and justification, being legally declared righteous before God. Following the chart, we see propitiation, atonement, and then a shift into the center, sanctification, the ongoing process of becoming holy. To explain how this connects to humanity, the Apostle Paul uses an agricultural metaphor, calling Christ the first fruits of those who have died. In ancient farming, the first crops pulled from the ground served as a guarantee that the rest of the harvest was maturing and would follow. By calling Jesus the first fruit, Paul states that Christ's resurrection serves as the guarantee for the future resurrection of his followers. While the crucifixion provided the forgiveness of sins, the empty tomb provides the actual mechanism for eternal life. The bottom right corner of the salvation chart reveals the destination of this theological chain reaction, the future event known as the rapture, pointing upward from resurrection toward glorification. The texts in 1 Corinthians and 1 Thessalonians detail the mechanics of this promise. At the sound of a final trumpet, the dead rise first, and their mortal bodies are instantly transformed into immortal, glorified bodies that match the one Christ displayed during his 40 days on earth. In the Christian worldview, the resurrection of Christ provides the specific mechanism for humanity's future victory over death.